Okay, welcome to this 7.2, Managing Information. Here we're basically going to talk about how we've done this and what have we focused on. It has become increasingly more important that information is power, and every department wants more and more information. And that's pretty common since we're in the information age. As we get to using Twitter and Facebook and social media data, collecting mobile data and data from RFID tags, it is just more and more the case that we need to collect the data, analyze it, do something with it, and act upon it. And every organization is doing that. So basically, managing information is a key corporate activity where technology is the infrastructure, and the asset is the information that runs on that infrastructure. So we have some issues that we have to deal with that. First is we've got four types of information: internal and external types, as well as record-based and document-based. So the internal record-based are traditional types of data that you would see in an Excel spreadsheet. These are data that you collect, that you formulate marketing reports on, even your IT reports or financial reports. The external record-based data are basically data that's going to be public-oriented. So I may collect census data. I may collect tax data externally. I may collect healthcare data from the state. And I may import them into our databases for analysis. The document-based types of information are a little bit different, but word processing and record management would be internal document-based management. That is basically, we take some documents and we still need to store them. We can include in this, we can begin including things like videos and audios, because it is not the regular structured data. What we're going to see here is the emergence of this concept of structured versus unstructured data. And the external document-based are corporate library websites, external information that is basically a little bit free form that could be used. It's not unconceivable, or it's actually quite done at hedge funds, where they have an executive management system that pulls in data from news sources that are specific about a particular country or a particular industry. So that might be an example of an external document-based source. The data warehouse, as we said in the previous module, houses data that's used to make decisions. This data is obtained from the transactional database. It itself is not a transactional database. It provides a snapshot at a particular time. The data inside of the data warehouse is not critical. In other words, if the data goes down or if it's not available, your company can survive without it for a period of time. It would be nice that it doesn't go down, but the reality is if your transactional system goes down, you cannot sell. If your data warehouse goes down, it's just a little bit of an operational nightmare that needs to be dealt with. So operational databases have the latest data. The data warehouse is usually lagging behind, and that's okay. ERP systems usually get record-based data into shape. That's a little bit different than a data warehouse, because the ERP system is a transactional type of system, or at least more transactional. The type of data that's done is usually about daily activity. Normally, data warehouses do not pull data on a more frequently than, I've seen some that do it every 6 hours, but they don't necessarily need to do it every 6 hours. Every 12 hours is usually good. So this chart gives you an example of how you might build a data warehouse. On the left side, we have our transactional data. These represent the source data, the starting point of the information. The second layer is what we call this enterprise data warehouse data layer. It's split up into two parts. The first part is the operational data store, which pulls the data and then collects it and stores it. The next part is the reporting data warehouse. The reporting data warehouse basically structures it in a way that's optimized for analytical processing. From there, we will actually create what are called business intelligence centers of excellence. And you might use things like Cognos or Business Objects or some other analytical engine. And it's there where you can see things like even something called MedStat, which represents clinical support analytics. These are specifically designed subsets of data for the purposes of doing analytics. Now, some of the data warehouse concepts, we have something called metadata. Metadata is a part of the data warehouse that defines the data itself. It's data about the data. If you look at a web page, you might see metadata tags or metadata information, keywords. It's information about the web page. That's what metadata is. It explains the meaning of each data element and how each element relates to each other. It sets the standard. Without it, different legacy systems can't really be reconciled, so the data is not going to be clean. And if it's not clean, you run into an issue with really creating reports that are accurate, timely, and consistent. Quality data is the cleaning process that's required to adhere to those standards. So you will see tools such as data cleansing, data transformation, that's used to organize the data in a way that says we are going to standardize or streamline the data. Some things that do this would be like zip code adjustments. So if a customer puts in a zip code and they write their town as, Hempstead, New York, they may not actually be in Hempstead according to their actual zip code. They may be in a different town based on that zip code, based on their street address. It's very possible, but it could cause problems for the data warehouse. Another issue is things like cleaning up things like 4th Street. Well, it could be the number 4 with a TH. Someone might put in 4ST for 4th Street, or someone might write out the word 4th. Well, if you're trying to determine if it's the same person and you're using address, those are different addresses textually. So you might want to clean those up first so that you can do the analysis to make sure that it's the same person. And then you have the concept of data marts, which are subsets of data pulled off the data warehouse. The reason data marts are so important is because there is no need, if you collect all of the data, say in a healthcare company, there's no need for the sales department to pull information about claims. Conversely, there might not be any need for the operations department that's processing claims to find out information about the sales department and who are the prospects. But by having all the data inside of the data warehouse, someone could begin doing further, deeper analytics on whether sales lead to an increase in claims, and someone like underwriting may want all that information. So in order to speed up the processing for the individual departments to get their reports out, you create just subsets of data that come from the reporting data warehouse. So in a sense, the data marts have as their system of record the reporting data warehouse. The reporting data warehouse has its system of record as the operational data store from the chart before. And the operational data store has its systems of record from the individual transactions. Another concept which is not on this slide is something called master data management. So some companies have put together a system that basically all it does is handle the metadata or the core data for everything in the organization. And it creates this master data dictionary for every piece of data and says, this is what this data element is. This isn't a course on data warehouse, so I'm not going to get into whether or not that's a good idea or bad idea, but you can take a look at that if you want, and it's called master data management. So what are the steps in a data warehouse project? Well, number one is you have to define the business use of the data. It starts with the business use and starts with the individual elements. Once you have that, then you can determine what the data model is. And part of that step is to determine what the definitions of each data element are, because then you can determine what the relationships are between them. Once you have that, then you figure out a process for cleansing the data. What rules are we going to apply to clean the data to say we're going to get our data in a way that is going to be understandable for every report that we have? Then we select the end user tools. Well, what tools are we going to do to ultimately pull this? What tools are going to be used to technically move the data from point A to point B? And then we need to develop a system of monitoring, that we have to monitor the usage and system performance to make sure that it's operating at peak efficiency, that reports are generated in a timely fashion, and that data is moving from system to system also in a timely fashion. These data warehouses are seen as strategic assets because they can yield insights that people hadn't seen before, because you can do correlation analysis. For those of you who are doing quantitative methods classes now, or you have done them, if not, I suggest you do them. You can actually use some of those methods to perform analysis on customers or products, or if you healthcare claims, and make some determinations about where could you save money or where can you generate efficiencies. But ultimately, you have to make sure the data is right. If the data isn't reconciled right, all you'll be doing is reporting inaccurate data. So that concludes Module 2. We'll see you for Module 7.2. We'll see you for Module 7.3.